An entity walking through the center of an ever-expanding universe, truly by themselves, exists in a liminal state as both the god of their own world and a prisoner to their own singularity in an infinitely growing cage. How shall we start? The artist trapped in his own painting. The writer sucked into his own story. The musician cursed to listen to his own music forever. Maybe the poet who became a living metaphor, or the director who can't escape his own movie. I don't care, because creation is the key to unlocking freedom in the first place. My name is CHAMPLOO, and I'll do what I damn well please. What do you think of when you think of Connor Kent? First off, do you even know who he is? Connor? The angry, loud, brooding motorcycle repairman? You know, the one from Young Justice. The one that can throw 4 tons like a box of pizza. That is the version of Connor that I like the most. So I chose him. Dated this Martian, joined the Justice League, perfect. You like that? Like that little picture I painted? Great. Now get rid of it. In proper accordance with the absolute universe, this version of Superboy is pressure cooked to the limits of his prowess to see if he can survive with his character intact. But, in order for us to tell his story, I have to walk you through the 4 horsemen of his inspiration. 4-card flush, or rather 4 of a kind. 4 kings. The Hulk, Thor, Jacob, and David. The fuck do 2 of the strongest Avengers and a couple Bible characters have to do with a Kryptonian half-breed experiment that can't even fly? A common journey for a scathed, wayward hero is what I call the reckoning cycle. Our proverbial wayward son is forced into conflict by a force of nature, society, or a person bent on doing the wrong thing, having borne the brunt of said wrongdoing. Our protagonist's temper reduces him to an animal on the hunt for either blood or justice, engaged in a fugue state of sheer carnage. Whilst locked into preparation, searching, or simply raging, he looks for reason, purpose, or the motherfucker that made him this way in the first place. When all is said and done, that needs to be said and done, and he's finally face to face with the enemy, any enemy. Like a brick wall in the middle of a path, he picks up his sledgehammer and he starts swinging. Let's read the docs. Connor Kent was the product of Cadmus performing humanoid genetics experimentation with Superman's foreign DNA mixed with that of his arch-nemesis Lex Luthor. By a similar token, the Hulk is the result of Bruce Banner's experimentation and a daily reminder of his own failure, which put a massive target on his back from the US military. My version of Superboy expands on the prospect of manipulation to further sow seeds of pain and anguish. He was never rescued from Cadmus in the first place. In fact, he became a weapon of mass destruction. As destructive, impulsive, and one-sided as it is, sometimes anger has entirely too much power in our universe. Like the Hulk, my Superboy has decimated entire armies and small villages. As an infant, they didn't trust that he wouldn't grow a conscience, so they placed him firmly under the mind control of Lex Luthor and Amanda Waller. Collectively, they control the Suicide Squad. They force-fed him information for taking out targets and implanted special forms of psychosis in his brain. The funny thing is, one day his brain mutated and he gained the ability to rage force his way out of psychosis, thus making him impervious to mind control. Superboy was crafted into a monster that most would deem unworthy of forgiveness, if they didn't know that he wasn't the one pulling the strings. Speaking of unworthiness, I turn to Thor, God of Fists, for the next muse. Starting off said comic variation, after not being able to save Asgard or Midgard from the tyranny of the masters of evil, we are privy to an empty, angry, drunken Thor Odinson to start. On the path to worthiness, many have tried to prove themselves. Thor is no exception when it comes to Mjolnir and the forces within. Many have fought and tried to take it for themselves, only to fail, with Thor included. However, with this fall from grace arc, this particular character has a rebellious comeback game like no other. Training like a box of the elements until his fists bleed against the very hammer he desired most. He gained the strength and resilience to counter godly natural forces themselves. As the original prodigal son, King Jacob was once a downtrodden outcast who sought his own desires only to fall. The one above once told of his rise from the ashes thanks to the forgiveness of his father. Now he is a king to be revered in glory.
Finally, the boy came to his senses. At home, even my father's servants have enough food, and to spare. And here I am starving to death. I will go home and ask my father to hire me as one of his servants.
This Superboy is searching for the same thing later on, as his father actually is Absolute Superman. To be perfectly clear, this Connor Kent isn't even Connor Kent. In my take on this character, Absolute Superman has made a beautiful love child with a kind young woman during his time saving minors from their oppressors in the original Absolute comic, making him half Brazilian. His actual name will be explained later on. King David was once a young child and shepherd asked to defend his land from the might of a much stronger foe. Rather than overpower his enemy with might greater than that of his adversary, he used tact and skill to disarm Goliath and ultimately kill him with his own weapon. Our own Superboy would have to do the same to divide and conquer, or else his own life and freedom were on the line. His ultimate enemy would pose such a threat that Wonder Woman herself may have to get involved. In my lore, Mongul is still very much in charge of the War World, who is hosting a planetary invasion of Earth to force the strongest fighters to combat against each other. Granny Goodness has forced her own children to fight in the arena against the Earthlings for supremacy. Even Vandal Savage has sent one of his own children into battle to fight for their own worth, and Ares, the god of war, is there to feed off of the chaotic energy of the entire event. The sorry sons of bitches tasked with assisting this young man include Black Canary, a top-tier martial artist who at the time was on a mission to bring the next name on this list to justice. Slade Wilson was on a mission to find and assassinate Superboy with a kryptonite bullet, but he was quickly detoured with bigger issues. Lastly, the offspring that Vandal Savage sent into battle was his daughter Scandal, who lost her fight and her father's good favor. Eventually, she grows to resent her father and appreciate Superboy more. She finds out that he's part Brazilian as well, and they establish a deeper bond when he learns more about his own self. Before he even knew about the Kent family or the House of El, Scandal gave him the name Diogo Davi, which means Jacob David in Portuguese. He would later be coined the titles DL and Jacob David Kent when he was later reunited with his father. Please enjoy this complimentary concept art that I made for this idea as I summarize the turn of events. Ultimately, the major takeaway from this story is that he experienced training from Slade, Canary, and Scandal on how to use more brain than brawn when fighting more powerful opponents. He needs this in order to take out Ares after he registers a pact with Superboy to give him his power if he wins in a fight against him. This is it. This is everything. This is Superboy, God of Hands. Thank you to everyone who watched this. I hope I can make more content like this in the future. If you enjoyed this content, please support the channel by sending funds to my Cash App and PayPal. Like, subscribe, anything and everything helps. This helps make more videos and allows me to finally establish my job as a content creator. I've been making art and music for almost a decade now, and I hope to live happily by making even more for all of you. Links in description and on my channel. At this moment in time, I would like to give a shout out of consideration and love to the original concept artist for Absolute Superman, RAFAEL ALBUQUERQUE. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish the project for DC as his house was flooded along with the rest of Rio Grande do Sul. From one artist to another, I pay my respect and love in abundance and pray that the matter gets handled as soon as possible. In the meantime, this was my first attempt at creating an analysis video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Prayerfully, as I get better at this, there will be more coming in the future. I hope there are, because I have several more story ideas, several more concepts to unfold and unveil, so many more characters to go at. It's amazing. I love this shit. Let's do this more. God bless you all. CHAMPLOO.